everybody. It's Dave Stefano here and Darren over there. So, the Ravens game was about as entertaining as watching paint dry in a helmet. Except the paint was JJ McCarthy's decision-making. I know some accuracy issues, some holding the ball too long, same, quote, maybe next year vibe in year 3. Meanwhile, our edge depth is so thin you can see through it. Right there. Half of the available veterans found new homes, and Brian Flores is stuck in a lawsuit hell, which, let's be honest, is fantastic for us. Darren and I are about to dig into all of it. No cheerleading, just the uncomfortable truth. All next on Two Old Bloggers. Rock. Vikings First and SKOL presents This Week in Vikings Land with Darren and Dave, your two old bloggers. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the show. We have Raymond, we have Norsevius, we have Chevy, we have the Drewster, we have Steve Younger as well. Good to see you all. Mafia is here. How you doing, Dave? Hopefully you're not up in a tree. We have Peter. Chuck, anybody else I miss? I apologize. But, hey, we're here today on Sunday, August 23rd. We've got one more preseason game to get in the books. And then we look forward to the real Viking season. Hey there, Achilles. How you doing? Now, Darren, how are things in the Great White North?
Pretty good today, Dave. Sun shining, out doing outdoor stuff. Finished up the fastball playoffs yesterday. We didn't win it. So we're titleless for the whole summer, but that's okay. Some good ball, and we had some close games, and now I can just mostly focus on NFL football and the Vikings, Dave, which is fine by me as long as the Vikings play well this season, which is yet to be determined.
I agree wholeheartedly, brother. I agree wholeheartedly. Now, I titled this one Painful.
Ooh.
Why? Because, of course, we got the report that JJ McCarthy was wincing. Well, he was causing us fans to wince during most of that game yesterday, and thus deserved the title of this show. And speaking of yesterday, let's start with theme 1. And in theme 1, as I scroll down, we had a 13-3 loss.
Yeah, well, I would say, Dave, that the result matters less than the way the team played to get to that result. You could have a 30-27 loss in a preseason game and feel pretty good about it, I think. This one, I don't think you could feel all that good about, particularly the offensive side of thing. And like Drew commented already, very, very sloppy, probably way too sloppy for my liking, even for a preseason game. But, you know, the entertainment value, like you said in the opener, day, was nil. In this one, it was non-existent. As preseason games go, this one was as hard to watch as you can get, I think. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't important things to consider and sift through, even if the entertainment was almost non-existent. And the one thing, the main thing, I think that the most important thing to come out of this game, the most interesting thing to come out of this game was the backup quarterback situation in the play of J.J. McCarthy, where is J.J. McCarthy playing himself off of the Vikings in year 3? Because everybody out here who's in the comment section, I'm assuming, has watched the game. So now you're diehard Viking fans. You watch every game you can possibly watch of these guys, even in preseason. But we're here in year 3, Dave, with J.J. McCarthy, and he looks like he's at the same. If you are at the same place now as you were as a rookie when they drafted him in 2024, that makes you wonder. I know what you're going to say, Dave, so say it.
I disagree. I think he's regressed.
I figured you were going to get to that. And I agree with that, Dave, because I know it was a short stint in that preseason game against Las Vegas, which seems like ages ago in 2024. But at that moment in time, he looked like he was on fire. He looked like he was the future franchise quarterback of this team. He looked like a confident guy who there probably were. I think there were instances even in his 2 or 3 series stint in that game where he showed a little bit of inaccuracy, but not to the extent we're seeing now, Dave. The same stuff that was an issue, all issues for him as a starter in 2025, Dave, were on display yesterday. The inaccuracy, lack of ball placement, poor pocket presence, command of the offense, all et cetera, et cetera. There's still the same issues. Seems to be no progression, like you said, probably regression by J.J. McCarthy at this point in time. And it makes you wonder, like, how long are the Vikings going to hang on to him? Do they look at it? Is it getting to the point where, I think, to be fair to J.J. McCarthy, he hasn't, at least publicly, except for that, when was it, the classroom comments, which was back in May or something like that at OTAs. But since then, he's been putting on a good public face on the whole quarterback competition, and that the fact that he did not win the job and is now the backup quarterback for now. So I don't think, it doesn't appear publicly that he's being a problem kid with the Vikings, which helps his standing with the team. But you do wonder at some point in time when the Vikings decide to cut losses with J.J. McCarthy and just think that, try to do whatever they can and get rid of him, even if it's for a 6th round pick or a 7th round pick, which I think is about the most you could get for him at this point in time. So very disappointing for me to see how J.J. McCarthy played yesterday and how he played the week before, against the New York Giants. And like you said, appears to be regressing, doesn't seem to have the confidence, same issues over and over and over again. And right now, I feel more confident in Carson Wentz being the backup quarterback than I do in J.J. McCarthy. And believe me, I take no pleasure in saying that. Is very painful and disappointing for me to say, because in 2024, from what I saw and what I was hearing from training camp and how he'd played in joint practices, and he was competing hard with Sam Darnold for the job, even though Darnold was going to get it. Again, I thought J.J. McCarthy was the future guy. I felt good about him being the future guy for the Vikings. It's certainly not looking that way right now, Dave. Not at all.
It's just JJ, unfortunately, as Mr. Younger, I believe. No, not Younger. Who said he's in his own head. Now, Mr. Young Cringe Gamer said that every KOC QB regressed in his system from Cousins to McCarthy. If you look at the efficiency metrics, and Darnold looked better compared to with Kubiak than he did with volume than efficiency. Yeah, I agree. Which I know Tyler, I don't know if he's posted it yet, was doing a big deep dive into what's failed. And there's a whole lot of stuff that you could blame. But it comes down to the kid isn't playing and not playing well enough. He flashes.
Yeah.
He flashes at times, and that gets you all excited. And then he reverts. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if it's personality. I don't know, or personality conflicts. I don't know, if it's physical. I have no idea. I wish I did. But it's frustrating as hell for Vikings fans, especially since we drafted him. He was the highest drafted quarterback in our history.
Mm-hmm.
And we all wanted him to succeed. And now I'm off his train. And that is not a good place to be.
It isn't. And you're right, David. You bring up the point about how there's flashes with J.J. McCarthy where, again, he shows you why you would trade draft capital and trade up in the draft to draft him 10th overall. But again, like the ruthless consistency that you need to be an NFL quarterback and lead a very good NFL offense is just not there with J.J. McCarthy at this point in time. And again, why is that? You see it in the pocket. His feet seem to be moving all the time. He's chopping. He's moving up in the pocket. There's been criticisms about that when he doesn't need to, or moving up too much. A lot of little things. And the air mailing, easy throws, not having the ball placement and making catches tougher than they need to be. There's a whole bunch of stuff that he needs to clean up. We knew he needed to clean up into the season, and he has not cleaned it up based on what we have seen so far. Very disappointing, like you said, and it puts the Vikings in a bind, which we're going to get to a little bit later. So, that's a very distressing development from preseason game number 2. But beyond that, Dave, I don't think there's a whole lot of, when you get beyond the how is J.J. McCarthy doing and disappointment about how he's played these 2 games, there's not a whole lot of intrigue otherwise, I think, with the Vikings in the preseason, and I think how the 53-man roster is going to shape up when they get to cutdown day. There's a few things, right? I guess, but like we talked about yesterday on at the 2-minute warning, I think if you're wondering who the number 4 and number 5 wide receivers are for the Vikings, I think it's pretty clear that it's Tai Felton and Myles Price. That's, I think they've got that locked up. Now, if you're concerned about the number 3 tight end, there's some intrigue there, I guess, because I don't think anybody from Gavin Bartholomew, Ben Urasek, Bryson Nesbitt, and Marshall Lang, none of those guys have really distanced themselves from each other. Nobody has obviously taken the lead as the number 3 guy. And so with that, it makes you wonder, again, maybe this isn't a big deal, but do the Vikings look at, maybe they don't like any of these guys right now, and that it's possible. Is it possible that they bring in somebody that's being cut from one of the other NFL teams and bring them in as the number 3 tight end after cutdown day? I think that is a possibility based on what we've seen, or really not seen, from the number 3 tight ends at this candidates at this point in time. And yeah, other than that, Dave, there's some who are going to be some of the depth guys along the offensive line, particularly, I think, mostly in the interior. That's where there might be 1 or 2 spots where we're not quite sure how it is. I suppose there's still a question of who is the starter at safety opposite of Josh Metellus. Is it Theo Jackson or is it Jay Ward? I think there's still I think Jackson is the favorite there right now, but certainly Ward has played well when he's been in the little action he's gotten in 2 preseason games. And I wonder if he's going to he probably won't play Friday night in Denver either. I think that's going to be a lot of the 3s or 4s. The other guy, I talked about him last week, so I wouldn't say I have a man crush on him, but I do like Elijah Williams at defensive tackle. And I've said that before.
Well, Tyler has a man crush on him.
Okay, good. There's 2 of us. But the fact that he was playing with the 3rd and 4th stringers and they were rotating him in the 4th quarter yesterday indicates to me that the Vikings aren't quite sure yet if they're going to be able to keep him on the roster. I think that the top 5 defensive linemen are pretty clear. You got Redmond, you got Tyron and Ingram Dawkins, you've got Levi Drake Rodriguez, and the 2 rookies, Banks and Dominique Orange. Elijah Williams isn't among those 5, but does he play well? Is he somebody that the Vikings consider as the number 6 defensive lineman or the number 7 defensive lineman? Because there's Isaiah Loudermilk, who has a history with Brian Flores with the Steelers too, who's fighting for a job. I think Williams' spot on the 53 might depend on how he plays Friday night against Denver, because I suspect he's going to start and going to play most of the first half. So those are just some thoughts about depth guys that and where they stand and who might stick and who might not with the Vikings at this point in time. But again, not a lot of intrigue. I think the vast majority of players on who's going to make this team and who isn't. I guess there's still a question about punting, Dave. I think Hecker's going to get that. I think Thorson's a guy, Brett Thorson's a guy that they can stash him as an international development guy and not risk losing him. And if something happens to Hecker or they're not happy with Hecker, they can go with Thorson. But I think Hecker's going to get that, especially with his experience holding on place kicks, which might be really important for the Vikings, because if the offense doesn't get it going, Dave, they might be kicking a lot of field goals and they're going to need to make them to win. So those are some thoughts about the preseason that we so far, the 2 games and even the joint practices with the Ravens. And like last week, Dave, throw it to you if after 24 hours, whether you have any additional thoughts, any more after what we all talked about yesterday on Live at the 2-minute warning. He's stumped.
I'm so disappointed with the young man.
Yeah.
I think the best thing that we could do is trade him with the Colts, just 1 for 1.
Oh, so you get Richardson back.
Yeah.
And he goes there.
Right. And then they both get fresh starts. And they could be, QB3s on their team. That would be fine. Now, is that going to happen? I doubt it. We'll see.
Yeah.
And as somebody said, you need 2 teams to make the trade happen. You need another team that's willing to take J.J. McCarthy. Hopefully see something in him. But I have no idea.
Yeah.
Steve. Hecker can throw. Yeah, he's not going to be a QB3, though. Yes, I know he's thrown touchdowns, but no. Yesterday was so disappointing to watch him play. Mm-hmm. And the whole fact that he got on top of the laser throws and the not processing at the right speeds, whether he's too fast or too slow, holding on to the ball too long, all that sort of stuff. It's heartbreaking to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, we draft the kid as a fan base. We draft a kid and we think he's, like our own child. And then when he fails, you get pissed off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's there's something weirdly satisfying as a fan when somebody the Vikings draft, knocks it out of the park, like Justin Jefferson. It's different than if you bring in a free agent and he knocks it out of the park. Like I said, it's something about, it's like they're your firstborn or whatever.
Exactly.
And with the quarterback, it's even amplified because once you get that guy, Dave, if he is as good as you hope and dream he's going to be, it sets your franchise up to be a factor in the NFL for a decade plus. And we've just been waiting so long for that. We just get fits and starts with quarterbacks. We get a year of good play, and then we get 3 or 4 years of subpar, mediocre play from our quarterbacks, and then we start all the cycle over again. And we bring in so many bridge veterans and quarterbacks, and some work out and some don't, but none of them work out for the long term. When does it end? Right? When does it end?
It
hasn't.
That's it. And it's generally been knees. what called Dante Culpepper or Teddy Two Gloves. They had catastrophic knee injuries. JJ, just a torn meniscus. And that was it, just the meniscus. And that was enough to derail what hoped to be a promising career with the Minnesota Vikings. But we'll see. Now, I've seen people call him a bust. The biggest bust. We've had bigger busts. I don't know if at quarterback, but we've had bigger busts in our history. All right. You're going to say something?
Oh, I just see that Rob's talking about, Trey Lance is looking okay with the Chargers. Sam Howell is looking okay with the Cowboys. Somebody will always be interested in a highly drafted quarterback. That is true.
And it is. And it may take time, and he may develop into something.
Yeah. Of course, they'd like to get that highly drafted quarterback for free. Rather, even if all they have to give up for him is if all they'd have to give up for JJ McCarthy was like a 6th round or 7th round pick. But if you could get him for nothing, that's even better. I don't know what JJ McCarthy's trade value is now. None of us do, but it seems like it's pretty low. And maybe he'll perk things up Friday night in Denver. I hope they play him the whole first half if he's healthy enough to play. And there's another.
He said he would be, or he said he would have played if it was, if he had to. It's just coach took him out. Okay, if you want to go that route, that's fine.
Well, he was healthy to play against the Giants or the Packers in the season finale, and then took himself out at halftime with a mysterious hand injury. So I don't know.
I think part of it's in his head. So.
Well, yeah, a big part of playing quarterback at the NFL level and being successful is the mental part of the game, Dave. So if you don't have that, it doesn't matter what your physical abilities are. You have to be able to be calm in the pocket amongst chaos. You got to be able to process things and get through your reads in the right time. And was it you? Yeah, like Tyler said yesterday, it looked like he was progressing too fast on on stuff. So it's either too slow or too fast, but just not right. It's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears with the porridge stuff. It's just, can't quite get it right. Like I say, disappointing.
It is. All right. Now on to theme 2.
Where we get to more positivity, Dave.
Really? Cool.
Maybe not.
See. Here we go. Boom. Why do I always feel on the edge?
Yeah.
That's your theme.
Yeah, it is. Theme being about should we be on edge about the edge rushers? Thought about this because this week I saw on ESPN that Za'Darius Smith had signed with the Falcons, come out of retirement, signed with the Falcons. Now, why am I talking about Za'Darius Smith, who hasn't played with the Vikings since 2022, signing with another team? Why would I mention that in one of our themes? The reason is several weeks ago, we talked about Za'Darius Smith being a potential fit for the Vikings if the Vikings were looking at beefing up their edge rushing depth and signing a veteran who has a track record of being pretty successful at sacking quarterbacks. And the reason I brought that up is because I am concerned, since we traded Jonathan Greenard during the 2026 draft to Philly, I have been concerned about the Vikings' depth at edge rusher.
Now, everybody sees that Greenard has torn his pec and he'll be out for quite a few weeks. And they're saying, whoa, glad we traded him.
Well,
there's nothing saying that he would have torn it here.
No, No, there isn't. That's 2020 hindsight, Dave.
Yeah,
Classic 2020 hindsight. Yeah, but when you look at the Vikings, I feel good about the Vikings starters. Dallas Turner led the team in sacks last year and had a big push at the last 7 or 8 games where he got 6.5 sacks. And what we've been hearing out of training camp and what we heard and saw, if you watch the videos that were coming out from the joint practices, the Ravens, Dallas Turner was killing it at the joint practices this week. And he looks like he's ready to take a step and take his game to another level, the level you would expect from a guy who got picked in the top 20 in the first round and was a highly regarded, considered the best edge rusher in the class in 2024. So Dallas Turner, I feel pretty good about where his career arc is going. Andrew Van Ginkel is going to do Andrew Van Ginkel things. He's just too talented and too smart to not be a factor. So the Vikings are pretty good as starters at edge rusher, but it's what they have behind them, or may I say what they don't have behind them, is where the concerns come. Because you look at the guys behind Turner and Andrew Van Ginkel. Well, the Vikings right now are trying Tyron and Ingram Dawkins at edge, partly at edge at times. Very promising young player, a lot of talent, but he's mostly been a defensive lineman. He was a defensive lineman last year, played a lot of defensive line at Georgia. We don't know if he can be an effective edge rusher or even an effective defensive lineman at this point. He's a 5th-round draft pick. You look at the Vikings are trying Tyler Batty and Bo Richter as well as see if they can show and flash and be the number 3 and number 4 edge rushers behind Turner and Van Ginkel. They're also trying Chaz Chambliss there as well. When you look at Batty, Richter, and Chambliss, last year they were all core special teams guys, played a lot of special teams snaps, and that is valuable. But when it comes to defensive snaps during the regular season, between the 3 of them, they played a combined just over 110 defensive snaps the entire season. That is not very much. So they're very untested. We don't know what they can be if they are the number 3 or number 4 edge rushers. Do I feel confident that Batty, Richter, or Chambliss, if they have to go in for Turner or Van Ginkel because Turner and Van Ginkel are injured and have to miss, significant part of a game or several games, do I know if those 3 can play at an acceptable level at edge? I don't know. And I'm not confident they can. Same thing with Ingram Dawkins. Again, talented guy, but I don't know what he can do if he has to play 30 or 40 defensive snaps at a game at edge rusher. I don't know if he can be really an effective guy. And Brian Flores, we love him. He's the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. We know that he can scheme up pressures and get after the quarterback even when he doesn't have a lot of prime talent. But there's only so much defensive voodoo that Brian Flores can do. And at some point, putting pressure on the quarterback and getting them to the ground, it comes down to your guy being better than the guy or guys that are blocking him on a consistent basis. And again, if it comes to it and Tyler Batty or Tyron Ingram Dawkins or Bo Richter or Chaz Chambliss have to come in there and be better than the guy across from them because Turner's out or Van Ginkel's out, can they do that? I just don't know. And so, there's that. But who might the Vikings bring in? Well, again, Za'Darius Smith, that gets back to the veterans that have a track record that we've been wondering for several months if the Vikings might bring one of those guys in to beef up their depth. Well, Za'Darius Smith is now he's with the Falcons. Von Miller signed with the Cowboys on August 16th. AJ Epineza signed with the Eagles on June 10th. Jadeveon Clowney went back to his first team he ever had, the Texans, on June 6th. So the ranks of veteran edge rushers that the Vikings might be interested in, it's thinning. And even today, I saw that Derek Barnett got signed by the Browns because one of their defensive ends, right, is gone for the season. So there's another guy off the list. There's still guys that are available that have a track record in the past of being successful at sacking the quarterback. Hassan Reddick is still a free agent. Kyle Van Noy is still a free agent. Joey Bosa is still a free agent, and so is Leonard Floyd. But again, as the days go by, these guys keep dropping, signing with teams, and then they might not be available. So to me, considering what the Vikings depth looks like right now and my concern and uncertainty about if those guys are quality depth, I would not mind if the Vikings signed one of these vets. It's not going to cost very much. It's going to be a 1-year deal at a minimum, probably veteran minimum. And again, they have a track record. They aren't what they were in their prime, these guys that we just mentioned, Van Noy and Reddick, but they could give you something that Tyron Ingram Dawkins can't give you right now, or Tyler Batty can never give you, or Bo Richter can never give you. I think I'd be happy if the Vikings signed one of these guys to beef up the depth at edge rusher, because, hey, Van Ginkel missed 4 or 5 games last year. Turner's young and been healthy, but you never know, right? So I'd have a bit more comfort if we had a bit more of a proven person behind those two, and right now we don't.
I agree wholeheartedly, and we'll see whether Nolan Teasley trades for one or if they're waiting for cuts, because everybody's getting cut on the same day.
Yes,
and it's August 30th, so it'll be next weekend, and then we might see who gets released and who doesn't, who they scarf up then. Because if nothing gets done this week, I fully expect them to be eyeballing who gets cut and for why. Is it because they make too much money? Great. Or whatever it is. But we'll find out. But I agree. We could use a better backup on the edge.
See, there was a comment about, Flores wants to give Ingram Dawkins a shot because of how versatile he is. And yes, he is versatile, but is it good versatile? It's great to play multiple spots, but how effective are you at playing those multiple spots?
Right.
And, I just don't know what Ingram Dawkins, how much of a factor he can be. He has played in the preseason. I can't say that he's really stood out to me as a guy that's like, wow, this guy is creating havoc out there. He is not doing that as far as by my eye test. That doesn't mean that he won't do it or eventually become a solid player. But I think right now he's a big question mark as to how many defensive snaps you want to have him playing in a game and how effective he can be when he's playing it.
Exactly. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this.
I don't think the Vikings know the answer to this.
Our 2 guys don't get hurt.
Yes. But that is not a very good strategy, normally, roster strategy, right? Sometimes you have to go that way just because of who's available, salary cap issues, how cards are dealt with you. But I think, again, the Vikings do have options out there, veteran options that they can bring in. And like you said, cut down day might give them more options. And we'll see about that. So again, yeah, some of these veterans, they don't need probably a tremendous amount of time to come in and learn the defense. If Flores is going to say, all right, boys, go after the quarterback.
If you're a backup edge, you're rushing the passer. That's what you're doing. So it's not like, oh no, you got pass, you've got to be able to drop back and pass. No, that's going to be left to the starters for the most part, I would think. And then they'll bring in more defensive backs if they have to. I do want to point out that Too Evil to Hope, I did notice both of your super chats there. You are so gracious, and we appreciate both of them.
And everybody else who's tuned in today and is commenting. Appreciate you all.
Yes, we do. Now, that's the end of theme 2. And of course, what comes after theme 2?
I think it's
bring up theme 4.
Theme 3, Dave. I think that's what comes next.
This week in Vikings land, I've got the more tranquil one with the loon and the fish jumping to lower my blood pressure. after yesterday's game.
Yeah, you need a little bit of soothing, rain falling, kind of that stuff that you listen to when you're if you're having trouble getting to sleep, and they going, soothing, yeah. I see we got class is asking us if Flores handled any offense in Miami. Not to my knowledge. I think that I can't remember who the offensive coordinator was in Miami when he was the head coach there. But I think that
he obviously had the problem with Tua.
Yes, he did.
Waola.
Mm-hmm.
But not sure if he called plays or anything. He probably gave a direction, just like Mike Zimmer did.
Yeah, but I think it's the classic. Most head coaches they either come from an offensive background or a defensive background, and these days it seems like those guys always want to call plays that they didn't get to call when they were offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, right? But and then they leave the defense or the offense, whichever was not their specialty, to the defensive coordinator. So I doubt very much that. I think Flores called the defensive plays when he was the head coach in Miami. You wouldn't have time to call plays for the offense after all of that. So,
but speaking of Flores,
yes, well, again, you won't find I think it'd be hard to find a Vikings fan who doesn't worship Brian Flores since he became our defensive coordinator in 2023, Dave, because he's turned a defense which was just awful under the defensive coordinator who shall not be named anymore, and has turned the team into a top 10, consistent top 10 defensive unit. The concern, of course, is that, like all coordinators who are really good at their job, eventually they get scooped up and become head coaches. Mm-hmm. And Brian Flores has been very open about the fact that he wants to be a head coach again after getting fired by the Miami Dolphins. But it's also clear that he ain't going to get that shot right now because the NFL owners have clearly blackballed him because he is suing the NFL for discriminating hiring practices against minority coaches. And so he's got this lawsuit going on, Dave, and it's just been 4 years now and counting with no end in sight. And this week, though, Pro Football Talk and Mike Florio, who is a Vikings fan, so he's always keen to do stories on the Vikings, he put out 3 stories this week with updates about the Brian Flores lawsuit. And those updates, you can go read them on Pro Football Talk, but it's pretty clear from those updates that the NFL is doing all it can to drag this sucker out and fight it and fight it and fight it. Because they can hire all the legal expertise they want. They got the big bucks. I mean, Flores isn't a poor guy either, but he doesn't have the deep pockets that the NFL does, and they seem to be kind of waiting him out and seeing if he just kind of gives up eventually with this lawsuit. I don't think he will, by the way. But this sucks for Brian Flores because he is not going to be a head coach in the NFL. I think as long as this lawsuit is going on with the NFL. And
there's been judges that have tried to get it to come to court. I think there's 3, and the NFL's still fighting it.
Yeah. And so it sucks for him because he wants to be a head coach, and the NFL's pretty bent on him never becoming a head coach again, certainly not with a lawsuit. But selfishly, Dave, you and me, as Vikings fans, this dragging of the lawsuit just warms my heart because, again, the longer it drags on, the longer he stays.
Yeah, as longer he gets to stay and make guys like this, Lamar Jackson, in the joint practice, absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like him doing that to every opposing quarterback.
Yes. This week, Lamar Jackson, pretty good quarterback. I think we'd all agree. He got dominated by Brian Flores and the Vikings defense in joint practices. I know it's joint practices and it's not a game, but that's still pretty damn good. And what's been clear since Brian Flores has been with the Vikings since 2023 is that he provides us as with a huge advantage on the field with him coordinating our defense, with the way he runs it, the schemes he does, the style of play. The Vikings defense dictates to the offense, not vice versa. And I love that. And doesn't seem to matter what talent Brian Flores has, he can make that unit work with the talent he has by matching guys and finding their strengths and utilizing those strengths, which is what good coaches are supposed to do. So, I think that, again, with this lawsuit dragging on, nowhere near being settled, again, that's just great for the Vikings, because if they can, the longer they keep Brian Flores in Minnesota, we can be sure that the defense is going to be an asset. And he hasn't even had like the most elite talent on that defense a lot of the time too, but it's still been good. But I think at some point in time, whenever the Vikings offense catches up to the Vikings defense, which is coached by Brian Flores, Dave, that's when the Vikings are going to be like
they'll be a Super Bowl contender.
They'll be a Super Bowl contender at that point. Unfortunately, that has not happened often enough so far. 2024 was the closest we got, I think. And unfortunately, a couple of bad games by old Sammy Boy, and also nobody else on the offense played very well in those two games either. But when it happens, again, Dave, that could be the Super Bowl window for the Vikings, where they finally do it and win it. With Brian Flores coaching a kick-ass defense, and we've got a kick-ass offense to complement it.
Yep, I agree. Can't wait. Now, speaking of Super Bowls, or at least the season, The Athletic has us at 8.7 wins.
Yes, they came out with their win projection for the NFC this week, and you got it up there. They gave the Vikings 8.7 win projection. That was the lowest amongst all NFC North teams. And if that projection number seems familiar, it's because it is, Dave, because every win projection I have seen this offseason, and you've seen lots too, whether it's Vegas or the Athletic or whomever, they all have the Vikings somewhere between 8 and 9 wins. And which is kind of funny, because when you read these projections and the write-ups, and it was in the Athletic one too. Sorry, I seem to be burping here. This beer is making me burp. The check bills me. But when you read the write-ups on all these projections, all of the people writing it seem to agree that the Vikings have some great coaches and some great talent on offense and defense. But what they aren't buying is the Vikings quarterback situation. They aren't buying Kyler Murray as our starter. They aren't buying Carson Wentz, and they certainly aren't buying J.J. McCarthy if any of those three have to play a significant amount of time. And so that is why the win projection for the Vikings is what it is. And it makes me think just about, I'm jumping ahead here, but thinking about next year, because when we signed Kyler Murray, I felt pretty good about that signing, and I thought that signing with the talent he has on offense, that he would prosper, and that the Vikings, based on that, would sign him to an extension, probably a 3-year deal at fairly reasonable money. And by reasonable, I mean quarterback reasonable money, and sort of end the circular thing we have with the quarterbacks, and starting that we've been going through different quarterbacks every season for the past 2 or 3 years. But we've seen in training camp, he's been inconsistent, had some highs, had some lows. That happened in joint practices again with the Ravens this week, Dave, some highs, some lows. And so now I'm not feeling as confident as I was 2 months ago that Murray and the offense are going to really, like, Murray's going to just ball out and play great, even though he's got, he's got Justin Jefferson, he's got Jordan Addison, he's got lots of talent to work with. And that makes me think that the Vikings could be, at the end of the season, if Murray continues to be inconsistent throughout the season, that the Vikings are going to be back in the same place they have been since 2020, Dave, where we're never really sure who the Vikings starting quarterback is going to be. And they could be in the situation where they're bringing in another bridge veteran and don't re-sign Murray. And who might those bridge veterans be? Well, I just looked at what might be notable NFL quarterbacks right now who are set to be free agents in 2027, and it's Baker Mayfield, it's Tua Tagovailoa, it's Geno Smith, Justin Fields, Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah. Notice most of them are playing in red.
Yeah.
This year, which has got to be, it's strange. But Mayfield, they got red in their uniform. Tua, obviously, with the Falcons. Jacoby with the Cardinals. Justin Fields with the Chiefs. And then you've got this guy who gets booed by his own fans.
Deshaun Watson. Yep. And who wants him with the, don't know when he's going to go into the next massage parlor and try to feel up the massage therapist. It's just
he's supposedly married and he doesn't do that anymore.
Okay, yes, yeah.
That's the story.
All right. With the amount of charges, accusations on Deshaun, I don't think that's something that he can stop. But yeah, I don't want us to be in this situation again in this offseason, but Sam Darnold had some rocky times in 2024 in training camp. It feels like Murray's been a bit more rockier than Darnold was, but maybe that's just selective memory on my part. But I was kind of hoping that Murray, even though he's a bridge, that he would solve our starting quarterback situation at least for 2 or 3 years. But again, it's wait and see with him, with the way training camp has gone with him and the joint practice with the Ravens, where he looks good sometimes, but not consistently good.
Exactly. He's been doing the ups and downs, and just like J.J. McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm saying, I'm just saying. But it is. Yes, it is. Now, Lone Wolf says having a healthy O-line will help. Oh, yes, it will. Without a doubt. No matter who's back there, it's going to help. And hopefully it will help enough as long as somebody can see over the line.
There's Dave with the wee little one concerns.
Well, he admitted it. And O'Connell made it public. I saw one clip that was ESPN or one of those channels doing, said, KOC, it may be true. He may have said it to you. You may have said it to him. You talked about the Hall of Fame speech on the Saints quarterback, Drew Brees, and that you never want to hear, I can't see the quarterback. And yet you said it publicly. Why? Come on, KOC. You should know better. You don't let the public know, because that just feeds into he's too small.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is possible, because he is. I know he's listed at 5'10". I wouldn't bet he's over 5'8". But anyways, that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Lang says, can't wait to clean house. Yeah, buddy. I think Nolan's going to be the key to that, but it's got to play out this season. And we all, as Vikings fans, want to succeed. Heck, I'd like to win a Super Bowl before I die, as the saying goes. I'd like to win many of them. I'm greedy. I want a dynasty.
Amen. But, amen, Dave. Amen. Dynasty.
But, I'm resigning myself to think that it ain't going to happen. But that's what I want. Maybe when my birthday comes around, I'll wish for that. But we'll see.
Donkeytron says that KLC should be on the hot seat this year unless we get decimated on the O-line again. And I think that if the Vikings don't make the playoffs, he certainly will be, because he'll be going into year 6 with no playoff wins, and that would be 2 straight years with no playoff appearances. Yeah, the Wilfs, Mark Wilf said, "Hey, we're patient, but the patience isn't like infinite." He said that about a few weeks ago. At some point in time, the other people have mentioned it, other Vikings writers, about how be careful what you wish for if you want to get rid of KLC, because look at his regular season record, right? Like, he's been successful, and he's had 2 seasons where the quarterback situation has been just like garbage. Injury after injury after injury, and no consistency there. And they've still managed to win 8 games and 9 games in both of those years. Maybe to their detriment, they would have had a better draft position in 2024. If the quarterback situation had sunk them and they'd only won 3 or 4 games, but it is what it is. But I do think KLC will be on the hot seat if this season doesn't go the way I'm hoping it goes, which is that the Vikings win at least 11 games and make the playoffs and win a playoff game or 3.
On top of that, we'll see. Let's hope. I find it interesting that, Vegas has the whole division once again 500 or better, which would make us the toughest division in football, which we knew. But we want better.
Yeah, we want a Super Bowl. That's what we want.
Yep. Oh, it's just brr. But all right, did we go through all those? Is that it?
No, we got one more to go. It also has to do with
that's right.
Also, KLC.
Speaking of Kevin O'Connell.
Well, here's where I'm going to defend him a little, Dave.
Okay. You do that.
Rip me if you want. But, the Vikings fans, and I've been one of them, have been critical of O'Connell and how he handles the preseason and how much he plays, or really doesn't play, the starting quarterback, and along with the starting offensive, the whole starting offense. Although I don't care if Justin Jefferson plays, because clearly he doesn't need preseason. He just goes in there. If he's got a good quarterback, he's going to rock it. But you look at Murray, right? Like, he's so far, he didn't play against the Baltimore. He's not going to play Friday night against Denver. So his preseason has amounted to a 1 series, 10-play drive where he threw 2 passes, completed 3 for 10 yards. And so, you get to thinking, like, well, why wouldn't you play him a little bit more with the first team offense so they can get in a bit of rhythm before they play Green Bay? Yeah. Before they play Green Bay in 2.5 weeks, so that the offense is rocking and rolling, or at least has played a bit more and saw a few things and played against a few opposing defenses. They might be a bit more, not fresher, but they might be a bit more like in tune and ready to hit the ground running when they play the Packers. We've talked about it before. As a counterpoint to that, I guess, Dave, is I was looking at the other NFC North teams, our divisional rivals, and how their coaches have handled the quarterback situation in preseason. And really, they're doing the same thing that Kevin O'Connell is doing. Jared Goff with the Detroit Lions has not played at all in the preseason, and he won't play in their final preseason game. Caleb Williams didn't play in the opener against the Browns, which they won. He did play in the game against the Bengals on Saturday, which they lost, but he only played 1 series. He threw like 5 passes. He completed 2 of them. 8 plays in that 1 series that he was there. Jordan Love has played the most of all the other NFC quarterbacks, but he's only played a series each in both of their games. It's turned out to be like 22 plays in total. He's thrown 12 passes. I doubt he'll play in the 3rd preseason game. So I guess what I'm getting at here, Dave, is, and I think if I looked at every other NFL team right now, I'd see that the coaches are handling their quarterbacks in preseason the same way. If they're playing 1 series or maybe 2, and that's about it, and they don't play at all. Like Sam Darnold, our buddy, he is yet to play. He didn't play in the first 2 games in Seattle, and he won't play in preseason in the 3rd preseason game either. I'm sure that won't affect him at all. So Kyler Murray is a little bit different than some of those other quarterbacks, because this is his first year with the Vikings in the Vikings offensive system. He's only been with the team not even 4 months. So he's not like Jared Goff, who's been in Detroit for this is season number 6 now, pretty much the same offense, and a veteran guy like he doesn't need the preseason to get ready. He knows what Amon St. Brown does. He knows what those Jameson Williams does, like Sam Laporta, all those guys. Murray's still getting familiar with his guys like Justin Jefferson and developing a rapport. So there is an argument that he maybe should be playing more in quote unquote like real games, what the preseason is. But again, if you look at it, Kevin O'Connell is handling his starting quarterbacks the same way everybody else in the NFL is. So, he's not going against the grain by hardly playing them.
Mm-hmm.
How it'll work out, we don't know, but that's what everybody's doing. They aren't playing their starting quarterbacks. They're giving them a token series or two, and then they're done.
Now, I was curious. I had heard some teams were wanting to play their starters in the third and final game and sort of a build-up, but I haven't heard of any teams that have actually done that. Makes sense to me, but hey. We come from an older time period when football was full of violence and hitting.
Violence and blood and guts and
that's right.
Guys just taping things up and there's blood all over it and
keep going. Yes.
Your middle linebackers didn't have front teeth like Jack Lambert. Yeah.
But hey, it is what it is. We've got a new season which will shortly be upon us.
Mm-hmm.
We have the final preseason game on Friday,
which should be awful. Like, I'm not looking forward to watching that one, but I will watch it. But I might not be happy that I did. It might be like 3 hours I'll never get back in my life.
Well, hey, I get to see Denver again. Let's see how the city's doing. So, but we'll see. And Friday's game, we'll be seeing the very bottom fighting for those last few roster spots. And there's a story there.
There is. And then when we have our next show on Sunday, we'll be talking about who made the team, right? Because
because Saturday is the cut.
Mm-hmm.
So we will see. Any last words there, buddy?
None at all, Dave. But again, I got to thank everybody for showing up today on Sunday and listen to me yammer on about Viking stuff. I really appreciate it. Love the comments. Lots of good comments there. Hope we see you back next week and every other week that we do this show.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure we have Tyler Fornes tomorrow night, and he'll be going over the film study of what happened yesterday. And I'm sure he'll have some great and grand insights from there.
I hope he didn't fall asleep watching the tape. I think I would.
Could be. All right. What do we say, buddy?
We say SKOL Vikings. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
SKOL Vikings! Like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Darren and Dave, thank you for watching this episode of Two Old Bloggers. We look forward to seeing you on every show on the new Vikings First and SKOL. You can find our podcasts as part of the Bleav Show Network. SKOL, everybody.